We're getting all good reports of fun summertime fishing on the lakes, inshore and offshore, for all sorts of species ranging from bass and catfish to trout and tarpon.
We're also putting you on snapper now that the federal season is open. Plus, we're seeing some pelagic starting to show up offshore. So get ready to catch the Texas Insider Fishing Report, which starts right now.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. With me again this week is Captain Jim Ross filling in for Rick. And Jim, I think everyone had a fantastic 4th reeling and grilling. What do you think?
I know I did. I know you did, because it was your birthday over the weekend. I'm telling you what, she doesn't look a day over 23.
I'm not. Well, it's good to have you back helping us get ready for another weekend of catching. But before we head to our first region, let's say hi to Dave Farrell at the Workbench, who still has all his fingers and toes from them firecrackers over the weekend, don't you?
Yes, I was very fortunate to keep all my digits intact.
No thanks to your
We did blow some stuff up, though.
That's fun.
We burned up some powder.
Ooh.
We had a good time.
We got some big things over there going on. I'm excited to see what we're going to do with those later. All right, let's start off in the lower fresh region to see what the Falcon specials have been like with Matt Reed.
All right, Brie, let's kick this thing off. I'm going to start off talking about my baby at Falcon Lake. The bass have been making me work a little bit lately. My numbers have been a challenge, but the size has been phenomenal. Football jigs, stand-up heads with, big plastics and Texas rigs with big worms are all producing giants right now. Rock structure in that 10 to 20 feet of water has been your best target. Be patient right now. Keep after it, and you will catch your Falcon special, I promise. Mike Bates sent me a report from Choke Canyon. Lake level continues to go down each day just because of evaporation. This has caused us to lose a lot of the shallow grass. It's making it a little bit too shallow in a lot of places, but there's still a bunch of bass feeding around it early in the morning. Buzz baits, frogs, chatterbaits, swim baits, and jerk shad have been best, just your shad imitations in general. That bite will last for just a little while. Sun hits it and it's pretty much over. The offshore bite is still good, mainly on Texas rigs and Carolina rigs, soft plastics, and 10 to 20 feet of water. That normal punching bite, punching through the thick hydrilla that we get this time of year is just not there because the grass is too shallow. Brian Cotter sent me a report from around the Austin area. Lake Travis is fishing pretty well. They're catching a lot of schooling fish early in the mornings on top waters and jerk baits and small swim baits inside the marinas and deep coves. They love it in those marinas because they can just go hide under the shade later in the day after they get through chasing shad around. Most of those fish are in the 1.5 to 3 pound range with a few bigger ones mixed in. Later, you want to move to the cliffs and ledges on the edge of deep water and throw Texas rig soft plastics. The bigger fish are about 10 feet off the bank on the bottom, right at the bottom of that ledge in that 10 to 25 foot range. Most bites are coming while dead sticking. You don't want to move it at all. Get it on the bottom and be as patient as you can. Try to let it sit there. Just watch your line. You'll see it jump when you get that bite. There's been some nice 4 to 6 pound class bass caught like that lately. Bass drop doing well for schooling fish. This is the time of year they school. Early in the morning, they like it in the discharge there at the plant. And later on, you want to move out in the center of the lake for more action. Small top waters and jerk baits near the surface will generate the bites when they're up and busting the shad. When they go down, get you a small ball head jig with a little swim bait on it, and that'll get you some nice bites after they go down. You want to fish shallow, working frogs and surface baits over the grass around the shoreline is also still producing a few fish. Lake Buchanan, stick to the rock piles in that 10 to 15 feet of water. Throw crankbaits and Texas rigs and jigs to get those bites. A little bit of frog bite early. That's giving up a good fish every now and then. Surface temps are really hot everywhere down here, matter of fact, so be sure and apply plenty of sunscreen and drink lots of water. Greg Boink sent me a report from Lake Somerville. He says the dog days have officially hit. Hopefully the night fishing will kick in and get good coming up. But this heat has made Somerville be extremely slow this last week for largemouth. To get a bite, you need to fish the brush piles or rock piles in that 15 to 20 feet of water with black or plum big worms, or football jigs. It's pretty much the only way to get a bite there right now. Fayette County sounds like a broken record. We've hit that summertime where it just repeats. The best thing you can do is get out and stay deep on the main lake points and drop-offs with a Carolina rig jerk shad or big worm in that 12 to 18 foot of water. Also, the discharge always has fish in it, even though right now the water temperature in that power plant discharge is 106 degrees. Wow. They'll still get in there to feed. So get your Carolina rig and hit those rocks to catch those fish in the discharge. I've got 3 bass pictures here. First one is Austin with a true Falcon special. Caught last week. That's just a giant bug-eyed beauty there. Whole fish, when they get that big, the eyes just bug out. Second one, got Greg Boyd, customer from Fayette County with a nice Fayette County fish. And that last picture is Turner with another Falcon special.
Bug-eyed beauty.
Yeah, bug-eyed beauty.
Love it.
But tell us about the white bass and the hybrids.
All right, Lake Buchanan is doing great for schooling whites, hybrids, and some stripers mixed in. You want to throw a jaywalker or shallow crankbait or small swim baits around these schools. I mean, they're blowing shad. You can catch them all day long. Over Lake Somerville, the white bass and hybrids are a little slow. Small scattered schools in that 12 to 20 feet of water under the bait. You have to find them on your electronics. Slab spoons and also trolling a little pet spoon behind the crankbait has been the best way to produce those bites.
Wow, sounds like a fantastic weekend to get out there and take your hot spots for the Lower Fresh region from here, Matt.
Thanks.
Captain Matt Reed says Lake Buchanan is doing great for schooling whites, hybrids, stripers, and regular stripers. You want to throw the jaywalker topwater or shallow crankbaits or small swim baits around these schools. You can catch these fish all day long. He says there's tons of fun to be had.
Dog days are
Dog days are
officially here. Let's get us some neck fans. Just kidding. You might see me out there with a
And
neck
misters.
fan.
I need a mister.
All right, let's head to the beach and see what Captain Chad Kinney has our offshore and inshore looking like in the Lower Coast region. What's up, Chad?
I'll tell you what, stuff's turning on. It's been a good season. We've had some goofy weather, really hot, like Matt's talking about down here in the Lower Coast. But the trout bite we've been talking about has been really, really good. The trout bite is really good along the ICW. They're in that deeper water. We've been talking about that due to the heat, I believe. They're really good with live bait. And there's some few redfish. They kind of moved from the flats out there. They've been in that deeper water to like 4 to 6 foot range. So talking about the trout fishing, like I said, that ICW has been really, really good. It's been a real early bite, too. I mean, you guys got to get out there, leave dock at 6:15. You're going to be probably done with a limit if you're on a good spot by like 8 o'clock or so. Live croakers working the best free line. When you're working that ICW and it's deeper like that, add a chatter weight to it. It helps with that deeper stuff. What we do is we power pole down right along the channel and then cast right off the drop-off, and then also right out in the deeper into the ICW in the middle of the channel. Take plenty of live bait on that croaker. Our slot limit is still 17 to 23 inch down here. They're going to reevaluate that. I'll keep you posted on that. It's probably going to go back down, but 17, 23 inch slot size. So you got to go through a lot of these 15, 16, 16 and a half inch fish to get your slot limit if that's what you're looking for. The currents are moving pretty stronger, and what you can do there is feed more line up to help that bait get down deeper. They're down in like a little thermocline is what's going on. And so when you remember also when you get a bite, go ahead and keep your rod up and then bend the rod to the fish. That way it gives them time to eat, to get down to that tail hook on that eagle claw and set the hook. There's plenty of action and lots of bites, but like I said, after about 8:30 or so, it gets really slow after that, and you can move on towards some redfish. Talking about redfish, they've been out in that deeper water in that 4 to 6, which in the Lower Coast we're used to weight fishing, sight casting, and a bunch of stuff like that, but it makes it harder for us to find them since you can't see them. But what you can do, if we get some of these decent days out here, the other day I was out, saw some muddier water, out in some green trout water, and any slicks that pop up in that area is a good sign of inclination. Of course, there's bait, something feeding on it. So we were using some soft plastics like the saltwater assassin, sea shad, and the magic grass color. That purple and the chartreuse tail works really, really good. And get down in that bottom area and bump it off the bottom in the sand pockets in that grass. You can also try a popping cork with a longer leader, say maybe like 30 inches on that with a soft plastic. Or you can, if you got some, attach a fish bite to it for the added scent, or if you got some live shrimp, which are hard to find, but if you get some live shrimp, that also works really good. So I had some people out here, I got a picture coming up here, got a redfish and a trout. Had a young man's birthday. He was caught a 23-inch trout on his birthday. He's 8 years old, and his mom caught a 28-inch red.
Very nice.
Love that picture.
Yeah, it was a good time. Good time for those guys. They're at a getaway lodge out of Port Mansfield there. Moving to offshore, the snapper bite, we talk about it, but the reason we do is because it's just excellent. And head out deeper to Colt or Nueces Dome for some billfish. The billfish are starting to show up. We're still got some cold water down below in the thermoclines, but there's some stuff out there that's really starting to pop up. Snapper bite, like I said, we always talk about it, but it's just really great. And federal season opens. Of course, state water still is. There's a ton of fish out there in that federal water. Just find some good structure and look for some suspended fish. You can use some lighter tackle and use some eagle claw trocar jigs to make it even more fun. Drop it down. What I do is I tell some guys or even myself, drop it down 8 to 10 seconds. You don't get a bite. Drop it down to 2 to 4 seconds and just find out the depth they're feeding at. Once you find out they're dropping at 12 seconds, drop the jig back down, stop at 12, jig it a little bit like that, and you're going to start hammering them. And those fish are suspended, and it's a lot more fun. Drake fish, bigger fish. And remember, it's 2 per person on the federal, and in the states, you're allowed a 4 total there for the state water. Moving over to pelagics, they're starting to show up. Talk to some buddies of mine. They've been fishing on Ford A and down all the island. They're hitting the Colt and Nueces Dome. There's been some white marlin caught, some sailfish being caught. If you're really looking for the billfish, the best way to do it, of course, is run some dredges and some pitch baits. If you're trolling some lures, my favorite way to cover some more ground is get some Islander lures out there rigged with ballyhoo on it and put those on the riggers and the shotgun, and then maybe pull some chuggers to some mid-range on the flat lines there. And the blue water is definitely out there like that. The season is just kicking off right now for stuff like that for going out there, and the shrimp boat season is about to kick off. So I think it's going to be a really great season between now and October.
Well, Chad, that was a fantastic report. I'm going to take your shallow sports boats hot spots for the lower coast region. Captain Chad Kinney says, inshore, the trout fishing is good along the ICW drop-offs from Arroyo City to Port Mansfield, and then redfish are hanging in the deeper water from 4 to 6 feet of water out of Port Mansfield. And then offshore, red snapper bite remains excellent, and there's some billfish showing up around the Colt and Nueces Domes.
Chad gave a lot of good tips in those reports.
Yes,
right?
he did. Man.
A lot of secrets. Maybe not.
Good charter captains always have a bag full of those.
Yep.
You got to have a bag of secrets.
Bag of tricks, that's what we call them. All right, we're casting into the upper fresh region when we come back. But first, we're going to see what Dave Farrell is showing us for rigs and techniques at the Workbench. Dave, you got a bag of tricks over there? What?
Well, we're going to talk about those big blue marlins that Chad was talking about out there. All that big blue water stuff. So
Perfect.
That's what we're talking about.
You know a little bit about that.
A little bit.
A little bit. We'll be back.
A little bit.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Fenwick. Feel everything. Bahio Sunglasses. Blue light blocking. Radically clear lenses. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Berkeley. Your fish, our science. And Skeeter Performance Fishing Boats. Eat, sleep, fish.
Well, we're at the rigging bench, and we're here with Mr. Marlin. If those of you guys and gals don't know, Dave Farrell.
Everybody I know is just spitting on that
knows,
statement.
No, you know you're Marlin. That's one
I've
thing.
Seen a few.
You know you're Marlin.
Well, blue marlin in Texas is got a long history. The Poco Bueno tournament, which started in 1969, is pretty much the very first marlin tournament that really started them all.
Oh.
The Texas guys really like to gamble. And as a matter of fact, we just finished the 4th of July, the World Cup tournament, the World Cup Blue Marlin tournament, started by Hank Schramm, owner of the Dallas Cowboys. He liked to gamble. All these Texas guys, when the oil business started up really good, these guys had a lot of money and they like to spend it. And the Blue Marlin fishing is expensive.
Yeah.
So those guys were able to do it. And with all those oil rigs started coming out there and way out there, those oil rigs, they became pretty much fish attracting devices,
Oh, they're
big
magnets.
fads.
Magnets.
And everything comes to those. And even back in the day, some of the very first guys to do, big live bait, for tuna, for the big tunas and the big marlins were out there off those big oil rigs. And, I know they're a long way out, but they are really really prolific. You can really do well if you catch a live bait, especially, and drop it over.
Big boats, long runs, big baits, big fish.
You got to go a long way. Usually spending the night, because
and like you say,
got to go a long way.
Guys are guys.
Right.
Oh, I can catch a bigger fish than you. Oh, no, you can't.
They love to do it. They love to do it. So, if you're going to be out there, the best thing you're wanting to do is try to find those tuna schools that are around the rigs. Mm-hmm. Good water is obviously another thing. You want to look for upwellings, good temperatures and all that stuff. But if you find tunas and the upwellings and the good clear water, then you're going to be really onto something. And the best thing to use is a big single hook, big circle hook on 200-pound or 300-pound mono. Some Amoy's high catch fluorocarbon leader. I like to use fluorocarbon when I'm using live baits because a live bait's not moving around much. It's sitting down there, and the fish can come up and get a good eyeball on it. Doesn't matter if we're trolling lures or not. He's not going to be able to get a good eyeball on that leader and stuff. Plus, he doesn't really care. As soon as he gets close enough to that live bait, he probably won't care either. But I wouldn't want him to get a good look of any 300-pound mono waving in the wind if we can help it, because that bait will be stationary until he gets a whiff of that marlin, and then he'll take off. But if the marlin sneaks up on it and gets a good view of it, we want him to not be able to see much.
And when you're targeting white marlin, do you do a different rig than you do for blue marlin?
Yeah, I'm usually not white baiting live marlin. If I'm fishing for live marlins, I'm trolling. Okay. Yeah, I'm trolling little stuff, even smaller than this, maybe a little blue and white islander or whatnot. But for the blue marlins, when we're going fishing for the lures, we're trying to cover ground,
So you want big stuff.
For blue marlins, we want bigger things. Yeah. But they will eat little stuff too. As a matter of fact, more blue marlin have probably been caught on a lure this size, like this bullet here, this tuna bullet,
so you can see the
than
difference.
Any other, just because it gets pulled all the time. Everybody's got one of these way out the back trying to catch a tuna fish. Well, blue marlin don't care. They will still come and eat that little jugger too.
Now some of these guys are running 2-hook rigs.
Yeah.
Some are running 1-hook rig.
Yeah, 2-hook rig. That's a great rig for wahoos and stuff like that. Not my favorite for blue marlins for several reasons. One is if the fish comes alongside the boat and we're trying to let it go and it's flailing around with that double hook rig, 1 hook can go on the mate, 1 hook stays in the fish. Yeah. That can be a dangerous thing. Also, 1 hook can be in the top lip, 1 hook can be in the bottom lip. Then the fish gets away, can't eat now. It's a dead fish. So there's a lot of good reasons why to have that just one single hook. Plus, if you have the single hook all the way back in the back till it's just inside, the eye is just inside the skirt, then you're going to be just fine as far as hookup ratio goes.
So I notice you have some beads stacked in front of this 2-hook rig. Obviously has some distance spread between the hook.
Right.
The
well, that's just to make sure that hook, the last hook is swinging all the way at the end of the bait.
Okay, but this one, you've actually stacked beads in front of it to compensate for the space this one would be in.
Right, because it's not a double hook rig.
So that it sits at the back of the skirt.
Correct. And as long as the eye is in there, actually this whole thing the whole hook can hang out as long as the eye is just inside the skirts, it's legal.
Okay, gotcha.
So, and that's a great, you're probably, the hookup ratio on live baits is way up there, above 70, 80%. Okay. He comes and eats that tuna fish, you're probably going to get a hook in him unless the circle hook turns around and gets back in the bait or something like that.
Right.
Lure fishing, if you're doing 70%, you're a genius. Usually most guys are in the 50, 60% range. It's like flipping a coin, whether you're going to hook them or not, because you're dragging at 27 pounds, and the fish comes up and eats. And even when I'm using 80s or 120s or 130s, I don't use that strong of a strike setting.
Right,
I'm pretty much, I'm a 10-pound guy. I like him to come up and grab it and be able to turn and go with it, instead of just a full-on he's either there or not.
And get a better hookup ratio.
Yeah.
Well, man, there's so much more we could talk about, but that's a lot to digest. Hopefully you guys and gals out there will enjoy that and go out and take advantage of it.
And I was on the edge of my seat, Dave. I couldn't look away from that workbench over there. But you know what? We're switching gears. We're getting you out on the lakes and on some nice fish in the upper fresh region with your guide, Mike McFarland. So, Mike, wow us.
Hi, Brie. Hi, Jim. We got some pretty decent fishing now up here. It's hot, but the fishing's good. So let's start with Ray Hubbard and Mr. Joe Shipley, Texas Frenzy Fishing. Water temperatures on Hubbard are 86 to 88. The bass are good, mostly offshore, 18 to 20 feet. You're going to look for them in the brush piles and on rock points and bridges. Texas rigs, shaky heads, deep crankbaits, and football jigs. Your best worm and jig colors are green pumpkin family, and your best crankbait colors are anything in the shad color, or what they call sexy shad, which is kind of like a chartreuse shad. Lake Possum Kingdom with Pete Hernandez. Bass fishing's great there. Lake is full pool, clear water in the south. Semi-stained in the north. Topwater bite's still going good there. And if you'll actually launch your boat in the dark, go find some of the green dock lights. They're producing some really big 5-fish sacks before the sun gets up on top waters on those green dock lights. Once the sun's up, the ledges and rock piles near docks and points at 15 to 25 feet, they've been good. 10 to 12-inch worms, Texas rigged, and 3/4 to 1-ounce football jigs on the same structure. Lake Tawakoni with Matt Cartwright. Bass fishing there is also good. Topwater bite continues to be great. Last week, the Popping Frogs and the Berkeley El Chapo. Same bite this week. That Berkeley El Chapo during the early mornings and late evenings is working really well. Midday, hit the docks and rocks with crankbaits and soft plastics. I really like to flip the docks with a Texas rig Bass Assassin Whoopa Crawl. It's a crawfish trailer for jigs, but you can use it all by itself. That Whoopa Crawl and watermelon candy or green pumpkin with the tail dip chartreuse, it just flat catches bass. Lake Athens, bass fishing with Jay Bonner. Bass are good there on the humps and outside grass lines, 10 to 20 feet of water. Wobbleheads with big worms and Carolina rigged brush hogs. There's a little bit of an early morning topwater bite there as well. It's short and sweet. I like the Berkeley Bullet Pop in bone white. That Berkeley Bullet Pop in bone white will catch some of those schoolers. Bass fishing on Lake Levon with guide Kerry Thorne. Start the morning off with chrome or red rattle traps along the riprap of the dam. That's working good. Then go to 3 to 6 foot diving crankbaits. And as the day goes on, 12-foot diving crankbaits. Your best colors there, again, are shad or the sexy shad. You can also throw some bigger swim baits there at Levon and throw those in the rock piles or on the underwater deep drop-offs in 12 to 20 feet. That's going to close up our bass fishing, but I want to show you a picture of Jay Bonner. Guy Jay Bonner had a 12-pounder from Lake Athens. This is a really big fish.
Dang.
Ooh.
That's awesome.
Well, what's going on with the crappie?
Let's tell you about crappie. Ray Hubbard with Joe Shipley. Crappie are still biting good on the deep bridge pylons and pillars, minnows, and hand-tied jigs. Crappie on Lake Athens. The crappie's pretty good there. Brush piles, 15 to 25 feet. Again, jigs tipped with live minnows. Crappie on Levon with Kerry Thorne. They're in about 12 to 14 foot. Some of the fish are sitting on the bottom at 20. Your 1/16 ounce jigs in white and chartreuse or just black and chartreuse, live minnows, or tip your jigs with those live minnows will catch those tasty fish. And the lower south part of the lake is producing the best fish. Basically, again, your brush piles and timber is pretty much the stuff you're looking for. And that bite is actually best from about 9 in the morning till 6 p.m. One of my favorite guides, crappie guides, is Jackie Wiggins here on Lake Fork. Between him and Terry Moon, they're cleaning these fish out. But Jackie says that the Lake Fork continues to be great as we head into these hot months. The trees in 18 to 28 feet of water are still holding great numbers of fish. Pretty much the same reports. The minnows, that's your best bite. It's a little better than the jig bites right now. So stick with those live minnows and you'll fill your limits. And here's a picture of Jackie Wiggins with some happy clients and a table full of fish.
Very nice, very nice. And you got some
Stripers
stripers.
and white bass. Let's move on to stripers and white bass on Levon with guide Kerry Thorne. White bass are on main lake points, 10 to 20 feet. Bounce a white or chartreuse slab jig off the bottom. And Kerry says if you'll tie a small marabou jig about 18 inches above it, you can catch 2 at a time. Lake Tawakoni, stripers and hybrids there continue to be good. Bite is excellent on live bait. There's also a little bit of schooling activity early mornings where you can throw the top waters, the paddle tail swim baits, and of course those casting slab spoons. Chartreuse and white or silver is your best color. Here's a picture of Matt Cartwright, as always, sacking them up.
He's getting them.
Matt.
He's always getting them, man. He's always filling that table. And a little bit of catfish if you got time. You know, catfishing's good all around the table. Catfish on Tawakoni, main lake points, cut bait, 15 to 25 feet. And then Levon and Fork, if you'll just chum the water, man, you can pick the spot. Just go the day before, put a little cattle cubes or sour maize in a hole, come back the next day, and you can catch them with chicken liver, night crawlers, cut shad, stink bait, whatever you want. But the catfish is great. That kind of concludes my report.
Well, that was
Nice,
a fantastic one, man.
You covered a lot.
Woo, you covered
We got
the
a lot in
whole
there, didn't
region.
we?
and
I'm
some.
grateful. Thank you, guys.
Well, thanks a lot, Mike. I'll take your hot spots for the Upper Fresh region from here. Captain Mike McFarland says Lake Tawakoni continues to be the best place to be fishing here in the Upper Fresh region. Stripers, hybrids, and white bass are on fire in the main body of the lake and on the main lake points. Largemouth bass are biting really good around the docks and the vegetation in the shallow backwaters. Daily limits of all the species plus catfish can be
They're being
had.
hot.
Yeah.
You know, it's so hot, it's so hot, but the fishing is so good.
You notice how all the reports are saying go a little deeper as the day
Yeah.
goes on, because
Yeah.
you just got to follow the fish. If you
Yeah.
stay with the same pattern, you're not going to get them.
Yeah, go early.
Yeah.
All right, the front runner boats Upper Coast and Startron Middle Fresh region is fishing strong, so stay with us to find out what big ones you'll be reeling in this weekend. But before we go, make sure to take a look at that QR code right there on your screen and scan away for our all access pass to our social media outlets, where you can like and follow our Instagram and Facebook pages, and to see new fishing adventures, tips, and reports, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy. We'll be right back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. Tin Cup, Mountain Whiskey. Shallow Sport, the Texas legend. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. And Penn, let the battle begin.
Dan Benson from Power Pull Shallow Water Anchors. Today I want to go over our entire anchor lineup. Let's start with our simple Power Pull HD or UL manual spike. You can stick it in the ground, tether it to the boat, kayak, paddleboard, whatever you have. When you want to run that spike with a wireless remote, you can put it in our Power Pull Micro, which is great for any boat under 1,500 pounds. From there, we step up to our first hydro offering, which is our Sportsman. The Sportsman's available in a matte black finish, 8-foot depth, our best-selling size, and our best-selling color. When we get into the Pro Series, that's our ultralight anchor, really built for the technical poling skiffs. It's available in a 4-foot, 6-foot, and 8-foot depth. Our top-of-the-line anchor is our Power Pull Blade, available in 8-foot and 10-foot models. This is what you see on the fastest bass boats on the market, the most high-end bay boats. For more information, go to powerpull.com, and that's your Power Pull tip.
Fishing without a power pole. I don't recommend it.
It's hard to do.
It's hard to do. It's such a help. All right, the Front Boats Upper Coast region is holding trouts and reds inshore and king and snapper offshore, which sounds like a perfect day to me, no matter how you shake it up.
I'm ready.
So let's see how we're getting it done with Captain Carl Weston. Go for it, Carl.
Hey guys, yeah, hey, the redfish are pushing a bit towards Galveston Bay and over to Trinity Bay, where the water is really heating up. Along with the bite, the bite's been good for months. So, anyways, there's a big school of slot reds that are pushing bait into the surf as well. Along those grassy shorelines, just about everywhere you look, find bait, you're going to see redfish tailing along the grass. And when this top water right now is a highlight of the day, it's going to be a lot of fun. Throwing a mirror lure, Meridine and shad, or a white color is definitely going to trigger some crazy action. I have a picture today of a nice stringer of redfish somebody got on last week. So, anyways, moving over to trout, guys. Starting on the week in Sabine Lake, man, the fish have been running swift along the shorelines. And captains are reporting that they've been finding these fish in about 10 foot of water right now, east and west Galveston Bay. Water temp is about 85 to 86 degrees this week. The heat index is getting higher every day. Summer's in full swing here, guys. Trinity Bay is a tad bit cooler this week, checking in at 83 degrees right now. There's been good fishing reported along those wading areas on the eastern side of the bay this week. So get out there. Make sure you have all your safety items in place. So PFD is a must. Tucker Marine makes an amazing thing called a shade fin that works off the side of your boat, your rod holder. It works in any position. And it's a must right now with these stubborn hot days.
and it's the ultimate sun protection. So we have a picture today of a lady with a nice little trout fishing outside the boat.
Nice.
And,
she's keeping cool.
Heck yeah, it's a good thing to do when it's hot as it is.
I know. So bumping offshore, guys, kingfish. The kingfish have really been working over the shad around the inshore rigs this week. I was out there a few days, and there was acres of fish, hardtail shad, and the fish are zooming in there, and they're just tearing them up. You can see them blowing up in the bait. With this water temp, it's going to increase the kingfish being caught. Along the beaches and jetties this week, also we're having fish reported bigger kingfish, still out in the 100-foot plus waters. It's nice to know if you don't have to run that far for king action right now. So if it's a little choppy, you can still run out and catch some in the 20-mile range all the way into the beach. And the Berkeley Magic Swimmer in gold has been working great, along with deep divers. Natural bait, kingfish, low, herring, shad, hardtails, anything you can find live, get it out there on a hook or a double treble hook rig. The wire leads at R&R tackle mix with that titanium leader. It's a single J hook, but if you hook the fish in the back, you'll get him on the strike. There's a picture today of Corey and his crew, which were out not very far the other day, caught a nice little kingfish. So moving over to snapper, we're all in full swing now. We've been hitting the triple-digit heat, and the big red snapper definitely making an appearance here, the upper coast. The red snapper have been hanging out in that 80 all the way up to 300-foot range, and everywhere else the same structure is really holding some very nice fish this time of year. And it's definitely set your rod up with a slip rig. I go with an 8 to a 12-ounce sinker, about an 8-ounce or 8-ounce charcoal hook. This week we've been hitting some shad pretty hard. When we have a chance to catch them on the beach, I load my live wells. And if you're out in the CCA tournament, try to get in. There's some amazing fish being caught right now. Get your fish in there. I have a picture of my sister who was here all week with a nice snapper.
Beautiful. Carl, you're looking at those red snapper pictures. Obviously, those fish have started to make a really nice rebound. Mm-hmm. Do you ever get those fish chummed up to the surface where you can, say, fly fish for them if a guy was wanting to try to do that, or maybe a light tackle scenario, or even possibly like one of those magic swimmers like you were talking about for the king mackerel?
Yes, sir, definitely. As a matter of fact, yesterday I had them chummed up. They kind of surprised me. I looked at the meter. They were on the bottom. I chummed a little bit. I looked back in the meter, and boom, they were underneath the boat. I threw out a little Berkeley topwater lure. I said, hey, guys, I'm going to catch one on a bait rod. And sure enough, I caught about an 8-pound snapper on a bait rod. It was fun.
Bottom fishing is a serious thing. But when you can take and make it fun like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because, an 8-pound fish on topwater, it doesn't matter if you're in the Bass Lake or you're offshore. Topwater's topwater, and it's a blast.
Yeah.
Carl, thanks so much for that report. It was really good when we're going to take your Upper Coast region hot spots from here. Captain Carl says, inshore, keep covered with a Taco Marine shade fin while targeting redfish in the surf. And you can also find them around the oysters and the grassy shorelines. And then offshore, the smaller kingfish are in the 10 to 20 pound range. They've been pretty easy to target on a medium swim bait, such as that Berkeley Magic Swimmer in gold color that he had talked about earlier. You want to troll those close to shore because, like you said, those big shad schools are in there. And anytime you find that much bait in one area, man, you're going to find some fish.
Woo, can't wait. All right, well, we've got the goods for you in the Star-Tron Middle Fresh region on Toledo Bend, Sam Raymond, Richland Chambers, and more. So, Matt, take us to the fish, please.
You got it, Brie. We're going to talk a little bit about the crappie first thing this week. They've been kind of the hot topic lately. They've been cooperate a little bit more than some of the other species in this hot summer heat. So I'm going to talk about Toledo Bend first. The Toledo Bend crappie that we all love so much, those big slabs we've got here, have kind of kicked it up a notch this week. We did go through about a 2 to 3 week lull period where they just weren't really biting good. We were still on them and seeing them. They just weren't really feeding much, but they picked it up lately. So the patterns for where they are kind of remains the same. They're still hanging in that 15 to 30 feet of water, and they're suspended usually about halfway down, anywhere from about 12 to 20 feet down. And live minnows and jigs are working equally well right now for catching them, with that Panfish Assassin monkey milk color being my top color on the jig. I love casting that thing out there and catching them. It's really a blast. It seems like they always love that color. And, that's what I love about the crappie fishing. You can keep it simple. You don't have to carry a lot of different baits, just some minnows and a few jigs and go after it. And I got a photo for you of the Berry family with a bunch of Independence Day slabs there that we caught this past weekend. Had a lot of fun with those guys.
Throwing them on the grill.
Land of the free and home of the crappie. Look at that.
Absolutely.
Wow,
Now, going to jump over to Sam Rayburn. I'm hearing tons of good reports about the crappie fishing at Rayburn right now. You know, Rayburn's been a little bit behind schedule because of some of the higher muddy water and stuff like that. But now the water levels come on down. It's almost a foot low over there. So it's come down a bunch, and that's good news for the crappie bite. That low water really gets them ganged up on that offshore timber and the bridge pilings. Same deal about that 15 to 30-foot depth range. And, you know, jigs and minnows as usual over there. They're really catching them good right now. And I look for that to continue for a while because those fish are just getting out there good, so that should be good for a little while. Now, up at Richland Chambers, Mr. Thurman Selman let me know that the crappie there are also biting good. And just like Rayburn, the water levels come down. They're finally getting some falling water levels, congregating those fish. And you can get on underneath those shady bridges, and lots of bridges there to catch them on. And then around the timber out in the lake to catch them there as well. One more lake on the crappie. I'm going to hit Lake Palestine. Lots of good reports from Palestine. They say they're in about 15 to 27 feet of water there. And they're catching a lot of big ones along the timber that's on the edge of the channels there, along those creek and river channels. So, once again, live minnows and jigs, keeping it simple, catching lots of big slabs there at Palestine, too. I'm going to switch over to the largemouth bass. They've been a little stingier lately, especially during the daytime. You know, with that full moon, they do a lot of feeding at night. So I'm going to kind of touch on the daytime and the nighttime patterns. Going to start off with Richland Chambers. Mr. Thurman Selman there with Bass Specialty Guide Service is always figuring out how to catch them. And he says right now they're hanging out in the brush in about 15 to 20 feet of water. They're wanting to get in that heavy cover and hide in the shade. And he's using Bass Assassin soft plastics to get in that heavy cover and catch them. He says with the water level beginning to fall there, that deeper bite should continue to be good and keep ganging them up. And he says that the water temperature there is in the low 80s. So it's slightly cooler than most of the other lakes in my region right now. So that's probably good news for the bite. With that little bit cooler water, they should be biting really well for y'all this weekend. Now on Toledo Bend, the water temperature has gotten all the way up to 90 some afternoons. Been really hot here lately, and the water levels come down a bit. They've been generating quite a bit through the dam, and so we're seeing the lake now getting to about a foot below pool level. And thanks to that, our grass is really thriving right now. We love seeing the grass back in Toledo Bend, and there's been some double-digit fish caught lately. So the lake is still showing off, and that grass is helping a lot with that. You know, even in the summer heat, these fish are being caught. Toledo Bend was recently ranked as the number 6 lake in the nation on the list of best bass lakes, so it's really still putting them out, even in the dog days of summer we're getting into now. And to catch them, you're going to want to deploy that old favorite topwater plug or the frog early in the morning and late in the evening. Get up around the edges of that grass. Then during the day, the bite gets a little tougher, but you can back off and kind of get on the points of that grass and use worms and crankbait, or maybe even get way outside the grass on some of the hard spots a little deeper and deploy the worms and the crankbaits out there as well to catch some of those deeper fish. Now, there's been a lot of fish caught at night lately. You know, we're having the full moon right now, and that's really helped with that nighttime bite. Been a lot of big fish caught at night. Big worms, dark colors like your blacks and blues, and big black and blue jigs are great for that bite. Just get out there and you can get around the edge of that grass just like you do at dawn and dusk and fish some of those same hard spots. Pretty much the same areas you look for them during the daytime. Just slow down a little bit and use big dark colored baits at night.
That's a great report, Matt. I'll take your Rodan Marine Systems hot spots for the Middle Fresh region from here. Captain Matt says crappie are the hot topic in the Middle Fresh region right now. They're caught all over the region in 15 to 30 feet of water on live minnows and jigs. Largemouth bass aren't biting as well, but there are some big ones being caught on worms, especially at night.
All right, well, the Fish Bites Middle Coast region is our last destination, but before we get our captain on the line, let's see what we're shopping for at the Workbench with Dave for new products. Dave, take us shopping.
We are shopping, and this is my favorite thing. This is my favorite thing to do on the boat, really, is to gaff the fish. I don't care about winding them in anymore. I just like to stick them.
Oh, yeah, don't miss.
I try not to.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Abu Garcia, Fish to Win. Fenwick, Feel Everything. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. Island Lures, Tournament Tackle. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a Miro Lure. Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA. And Startron, start, run, and store with Startron.
Well, Dave, we're going to go trolling the edge with the Taco Marine New Products segment, and we've got a bunch of new stuff to talk about here.
Well, mainly these over here. We're going to start. Hopefully, we'll have some time for the rest of the stuff. Because we're going to spend a lot of time.
Let's talk
on
about
the saltwater assassins. There, you know, these things are the little PV, and it's called the little P and V, and that means piss and vinegar. That's what they're named, and they're a really cool little bait. A good silo bait. Can be a shrimp. It can be a little, you know, a bait fish. It can be whatever you want it to be, and that's pretty much what the fish think. You know, flounders eat it, redfish eat it, trout eat it, obviously. I mean, that little tail starts wiggling around. You put it on a jig head and bounce that thing around. It's going to get a bite.
I pulled up on some buoys the other day outside of Port Canaveral, and obviously this is in Florida, but they can do it out in Texas too. 3 triple tailor on the buoy. Pitched a little P&V to them. They raced out and ate that thing.
They love those things.
Yeah.
And you know, we got some really cool colors for Texas here. These were all colors that Rick picked out for the Texas audience.
Got a little
new
penny.
New penny, the pearl, and that's the green moon there. And these are all light colors. You know, some chartreuses, some greens,
and the old standby.
electric chicken. You know, colors that work well in turbid water. You know, a little bit dirtier water instead of pure clean water. And all these things will tear them up.
You know, and if there's one thing that you can always count on, if you had one color bait, it would probably be white.
Yeah,
and
correct.
this pearl is
very beautiful.
Awesome color to use. So
they're also coming out with these new Bass Assassin jig heads. This is a Bass Assassin with the what that one does is it's got the wide gap hook in it. This is mainly for freshwater, but you can use it in saltwater too. It's got that wide gap so you can put big plastic baits on it, or even a big shrimp or a big crab or something. Something with a wide gap. I mean, something, you know, the wide gap allows you to use a bigger bait.
Running through the nose of a pokey or something.
Correct.
Using it for a pitch bait for a cobia.
We've also got the Pro Elites that Bass Assassin, Saltwater Assassin has just come out with. And these are a little higher end. They will lay down and sit up high for you. Once it gets down on the bottom, that jig head will sit up and it'll stand up and let your bait wag in the breeze when it's hanging down there.
So instead of just laying flat, it's going to take that bait.
Correct.
And stand it up about like that.
Right, and you can hop it and bounce it and do whatever you need with it with the Pro Elites there. Very, very nice jigs, and they come from 1/16 all the way up to 3/4 ounces, and so you can fish in deep water too if you want.
Yeah, the other neat thing about these baits is, like you say, you can hop them. You can just slow swim them, like if you're looking for tarpon, or you can get it to walk the dog. With these jig heads underwater, it actually can zig and zag,
right,
like a topwater walking plug would. But you just keep it under the water like that. So it's a really versatile bait.
Right. Go to bassassassin.com to get you some of those. Next, we have the AFTCO fiberglass gaff. This is a tapered fiberglass gaff. I have all AFTCO gaffs at home. I love them. I have all the gold ones, the metal ones. These are the brand new fiberglass ones made from e-glass. It's got the black epoxy finish with the gold inlays there. It's a really nice looking gaff. What's really cool about it is if you notice up here, it gets a little rough on it. And that is a bed of non-slip heat shrink. And it's got a piece up here at the top for when you reach all the way out to grab it close when the fish is coming over the rail.
So if you're going to grab them here.
Yep. Pull them in, and it's also got one back here between the two handles.
I was noticing that. A lot of the gaffs out there only have the foregrip and the rear grip. And with this in the middle, especially with slippery hands, like you've had your hands on some bait or some fish, or they're wet, a lot of times you can slip a little bit and get on that, and it goes whoop, all the way to the back.
Exactly. Well, that
with
won't happen now.
It won't do that.
Yeah, it won't happen now. And it comes in 3 different sizes. You know, you get a 4, 6, and 8. The 6 and the 8s actually float, and comes with 2, 3, or 4 inch hooks. You know, I discourage people from getting too big of a hook because the little ones always work.
Yeah,
they're always going to go in.
Always.
The big ones sometimes will go over a kingfish. They'll go over a wahoo.
You get a 4-inch hook and you're trying to get a kingfish and he just slides right through it.
Yeah, the little ones work better. Go ahead and get the little one. You're not going to pull them out either.
Well, real quick, what do we got here?
Last but not least, we got some Squid Nation, the Bullet Blast daisy chain and the Slammer Blaster daisy chains. They come with 5 Squid Nation slammers or the little sprockets on there. They come also with a Pakula micro lure at the end. The blaster has the cockroach, the sprocket, and the bullet has the little micro rat, I believe, or well, I forget which one it is. It's
Great
the
looking
Pakula
chains.
Micro Sprocket. That's what.
And where do we find those?
Squidnation.com. This one's really great for the smooth, and this one's good for when it's a little rougher
When it's a
out
little rougher.
because they got the bullet heads on it, and it goes right
Very
through.
cool. Well, great job, Dave.
Squid Nation.
Bree, where are we going next?
A lot of good stuff over there. All right, we're having a bit of a cool down in the Fish Bites Middle Coast region when it comes to some breeze, but the fishing is still hotter than ever, so let's see what we're catching with Captain Bink Grimes.
It has. It's cooled off a little bit. It's only 94 now instead of 98.
Woo.
But I'm telling you, it feels a whole lot better. High pressure finally moved to the east of us and brought with it the sweet southeasterly flow. We've been dealing with abnormally hot temperatures for June. It's high pressure sat on top of us for most, and we've just gotten a little break in July, and we're happy about it. Port O'Connor catches picked up this week. According to Captain Lynn Smith, trout have been willing to eat these top waters. Good stringers have come around the cedars and city slickers on she dogs, top dogs, and bass assassins. Nearby jetty's been good for trout on live shrimp and mullet. Some have waded the backside of the jetty with these calm winds. Scattered trout have come from around the Surfside and Freeport jetties as well on mirror lures and live shrimp. Higher tides and rock put have put more trout on the shorelines. Low pressure in the Gulf has caused a good bite on topwaters and corkies. Spots like Super Flats, Allen's Bite, and any grass and sand mix have been good for these trout. Good catches of trout in East Matagorda Bay have come while drifting with live shrimp and bass assassins. I had several very good days drifting 5.5 foot of water last week on plum and chartreuse bass assassins. I like using that 1/8 ounce head. I've used them for 25 years. There's no other jig head in my arsenal that I use other than the bass assassins. Guide Ray Sexton said West Matagorda Bay's been hot for trout over shell while he's wading. Good numbers of trout around Palacios on the north wind. That north shoreline, Tres Palacios Bay, and on the backside of Oyster Lake. Seems like the high tides and the low pressures put a lot of Gulf trout in our East Matagorda Bay. Gulf trout to 2 pounds have been found while drifting. We like that because it takes pressure off our speckled.
Did we lose him?
Nope,
we got him.
Holding good numbers. Best baits are live shrimp and popping cork, and then those scented Little Johns. We'll go to redfish. Waders have found good redfish in West Matagorda Bay while wading the south shoreline and casting the points and shells. Bull redfish have been found around the beachfront from Surfside to Port O'Connor. All the jetties are players right now. The Surfside, Freeport, and Matagorda jetties are holding redfish on cracked blue crabs, mullet, and fresh table shrimp. Port O'Connor jetty is full of big reds, and while drifting in front of Bird Island while soaking menhaden, large table shrimp, and mullet. Spots like Shell Island, Twin Island, Cutoff Flats, and Zipper and Bow and Matagorda are holding good redfish. Mud Lake and Crab Lake are players on the east end. Port O'Connor jetty has been just as solid around Pelican Island as well, and East Flats. Photo there, that's Troy Williford. He found that Matagorda redfish while working smooth around Cutoff Flats in East Matagorda Bay. Offshore, tarpon action is picking up, showing along the beachfront, especially in Port O'Connor. Anglers drifting menhaden, large live shrimp, finger mullet, or deep diving swim baits have been found for 5 to 10 fish a day. Large schools have been rolling around the Port O'Connor jetties along the beach in about 28 to 35 foot of water. Most folks are spotting the fish, rolling fish, trolling ahead of them, offering them a bait, and hoping they take it as they pass by. Guys throwing jigs have rigged them on circle hooks, mimic what we all call the coon pop. Forecast for this week call for more low pressure in the Gulf in the next 2 or 3 days. They should afford us a better bite. Please take care of our bays and beaches, and please consider catch and release when possible.
Hey, Bink, real quick, talking about those tarpon, obviously you can throw a variety of things at them. Are those fish just moving on themselves? Are they schooling on themselves, or are they actually working around bait pods right now where you could net the bait and then put the bait back out in front of those tarpon?
You can. There's large rafts of menhaden out there. A lot of them are just moving, but they're shadowing those big rafts of menhaden. Catch some of those baits, get ahead of them. They're rolling, daisy chaining out there, and just get it in front of them. There's a lot of them out there right now.
And then as far as the coon pops, are you finding any particular color tail is working better on those than another?
Yeah, glow, white, just like what you talked about with the bass assassins. It's the same color for the tarpon.
Fantastic. Well, thanks a lot, Bink. We appreciate that great report. We are going to take your mirror lure hotspots for the Middle Coast region from here. Captain Bink Grimes says, trout are good while wading flats near Port O'Connor Jetty, and you want to use some topwaters and bass assassins. And the redfish are good in the back lakes from Freeport to Rockport on small topwaters. Tarpon continue to show along those beaches, and like I said, anytime you can find those baits, Brie and Dave, that's what we look for whenever we're looking for them here.
Yeah.
And it seems like no matter where tarpon are, if you find bait, you're going to find those fish around them. And if you can ease that back on a circle hook, that's a fantastic way to get those things to pick
good
up.
way to do it.
But got to get in front of them. You can't cut them. You can't cut them, and you can't come from behind on those fish. You got to get around front.
And you
let
can't
them
knock
come
them in
to
the
you.
head with that coon pop.
No.
Because that thing hits the water pretty hard. It'll spook them off.
Yeah, let them come to it.
Yeah.
Just like it's a natural bait swimming, and then they come up on it.
Right.
That's the presentation that you want.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, we did it. Jim, appreciate you as always. You've been amazing. We will have Rick with us next week, but thank you so much for being here and being my little sidekick. Dave, thanks for just being you, bro.
Hey, why not?
Why not?
Be all I can be.
Be all you can be. That's all we need. All right, guys, we'll get out there, catch those fish, stay cool, get some Gatorades, get some neck fans, whatever we got to do, and we'll see you next week.
Neck fan.
And don't forget those fish, those green lights at night.
Right.
Yeah.